So in this video, I want to talk to those who are passing on a heritage language. There are different names for heritage languages: heritage language, native language, home language, minority language, even maternal language. At one point, it was considered maternal language because traditionally it was the mom that was staying home and taking care of the kids. So that was the language that the children learned first and was strong in until they went out into the community and learned the community or the majority language. So for a native speaker of the language, there are different goals and motivations for wanting to pass the language on to your kids. Number one, you may just want them to be bilingual because you speak the language and you need for them to be able to communicate effectively with you. Um, if you haven't started yet and your children are older, you would be happy for them to be fluent in the language. They may not be considered bilingual, but they're fluent enough to get by in various situations. Um, Language is also culture. So when you're passing on the language, you're passing on a part of your children's culture, and that is also important. You may be visiting back in your home country. You might be communicating with the extended family, whether you're visiting or even, in today's technological world, Skype or FaceTime or however we do that. And they're going to need to understand the language as well as the culture. A goal, they may want to, or you may want them to attend school in the home country, and so they're going to need the language, including some academic language. Um, and of course, you just want them to learn or maintain the heritage language. The maintenance comes in if you started out with this language, but you may have moved to where the language is now a minority language and you want to continue to maintain it. So you have to continue to speak it, even though they're learning or communicating outside the home in a different language. I like to call the native language the heart language. And the reason I do this because this is the language that you're most comfortable speaking, like heart to your kids, if you or to anyone. In fact, when you're having those deep conversations, the words come to you in this language, in your heart language. Things don't always translate well from one language to another. So even if you're fluent in the majority language or in a different language, your heart language is what you're going to feel most comfortable speaking in, because those feelings and those expressions may not be available to you in the second or the third language. So, for example, my native language is English. I've been speaking Spanish for over 20 years, so I'm quite fluent. Some people call it bilingual, but I wasn't raised in Spanish, so I consider myself fluent in Spanish. So even though I've been speaking Spanish for such a long time, when I want to speak heart to heart, it's a lot easier for me to do it in English. I just can't always access the expressions and the words that I want to say that's right here. I can't always access it in Spanish, and so I feel most comfortable doing that in English. That's my heart language, even though I'm fluent in Spanish. Now, funny enough, my oldest daughter, she's completely bilingual, but I remember one time she wanted to tell me something, and she was like, "Mom, I can't really figure out how to say it in English. I know exactly what I want to say in Spanish." So I was like, "Well, just say it in Spanish. Obviously, that's what's in your heart. So just say it in Spanish. It's more important that you speak your heart than speak my language." Okay, I understand Spanish, so just go ahead and speak it. So for her, it was Spanish. As I was working as a pre-K teacher, even these little kids, we need to encourage them to always want to learn and to speak these hard languages. And I tell them, well, this is the language that mom and dad will be able to speak best to you, even if they do learn English, because I'm in the U.S., so the majority language is English. It's like even if they do learn English, they're going to be able to speak more to you from their heart if it's in the home language. So you need to make sure you're still learning and speaking this language. If your parents are talking to you in that home language, you don't have to be embarrassed. This is a good thing. That means you're being raised with 2 or 3 languages. This is a good thing. And another thing to realize is that adults that have been raised with more than one language, very few of them express regret over being bilingual. Sometimes, as native speakers in an area where our language is the minority, we feel the stigma that, oh, we have to push the community language, we have to push this majority language, and that's just not so. Yes, our kids have to learn the majority language, but your language is also very, very important. And very few adults express regret of being bilingual and knowing that minority language. A lot more adults regret not knowing that home language or that heart language. They say, I heard it, but I can't speak it. I lost a lot of the understanding of it. So, what you're doing as a native speaker of the 1 or 2 languages, whatever, however many languages that you grew up with, that you're comfortable sharing with your children, it is very important because this is how they're communicating with you. This is how you're communicating your heart to them. This is how they're communicating with their extended family. And don't worry about those community stigmas, some of those negative people out there that say, well, no, you shouldn't do this. I will cover myths in a different video, but you're not harming your children by wanting to pass on this native language. Like I said, very few adults express regret. And in the research that I've read, the regrets didn't come from regretting being bilingual, but of the stigma growing up that society gave them. So it's kind of on us to help our children feel comfortable and be proud of their heritage, their language, and their culture. And I think society is coming around on that as well. But just remember, your heart language is very important for their well-being, for their sense of self, and they will not grow up to regret learning that heritage language.